All right, hey guys. So when I was starting my disability service, I wish I knew what questions to ask the accountant when I went into an accounting consultation. So, if you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right answer. So what I've done is I've done a list of 10 questions that I think you should ask. Now, maybe there's more, maybe there's less questions, but at least you can go into these consultations prepared. And I can't recommend enough to reach out to an expert in this situation. Don't wait. Don't think that you can learn zero. Don't think you can learn all this sort of stuff. Make sure you contact an accountant and get a consultation first, and then start setting up your business through that. It's a free consultation. And what I've done here, I've partnered with Retinue. I've found somebody who understands the NDIS, who works with many NDIS partners and providers. And they've been kind enough to set up a free one-on-one consultation plus a 10% off discount if you mention the Chadwick Digital NDIS discount. So in order to get this, you need to contact Besim. So Besim is going to set you up and look after you and make sure that you get put with one of his senior partners and during that consultation. And there is his phone number and his email right there on the page. So make sure you reach out and contact him. And my name is Greg Chadwick. I am the founder of Chadwick Digital, and we are a NDIS marketing agency and web design agency. And I am a marketing strategist primarily and focused on NDIS providers. So if you need anything in that area as well, make sure you jump on, check out all my videos on YouTube and Facebook, like, comment, all that sort of stuff. And I appreciate your time, and let's get into the value. So right now, number one question, if we just undo this section here. So what's the best business structure for your situation? So there's a number of different business structures. The easiest way is to just start out on an ABN. And look, I should mention right now that I'm not a financial expert. So that's why I want you to contact accountants, and that's why I've done up a list of questions. I am not the solution. I'm not an expert. I want you to contact an expert, but this is really going to help you go into speaking with those experts, because this is what I've experienced going into it. So yeah, you start. Easiest way is probably to start off with an ABN and to just buy a business name through the ABR. But there's other options, starting a company, starting a trust, starting a not-for-profit. Myself, I am a not-for-profit disability charity. So we operate as a not-for-profit, and it's not every solution is for everybody. If you're going into it with maybe 4 partners, you want to structure it a little bit differently. If you're going to be by yourself, maybe you want to start simply. So this is our number one question: what's the best structure for my situation? So you can explain to them what their situation is and ask them what the benefits are, of the other situations that I've just mentioned. All right. So number 2, does a change of name mean that I will have to reapply for NDIS registration? So this is something that it's really important that you get your infrastructure in place, because from my experience, from what I've been told and what I've been recommended by people, is that you get really clear on your brand and your name before you go and apply for registration. Because if you apply for a business registration under a certain name, then and let's say you spend $5, $8 grand, whatever it is, to get that registration. And I should mention, currently, 2024, you don't have to be registered to be a provider. Just so you know, you can be registered. It just depends on your primary situation. And I'm not going to go into what my recommendations are there. But if you want some help with that, please reach out, and I'm happy to give you some advice. But if you've already applied for your registration, you got your registration under a certain business name, and you then are not happy with the business name or whatever, and you have to restructure, then you're gonna have to start your registration process over again. And that's what I've been recommended and told from other experts within the industry. So make sure you get your structure of your business clear right from the beginning, so you don't have to. It's not going to cost you years of putting an application. Applications at the moment are taking for anywhere from 1 year to 3 years. So you don't want to have to go through all that again after being successful. Question number 3: because the NDIS is free of GST registration, does that mean I don't have to register for GST when I reach the threshold of 75,000? So just in general, there's a threshold of 75,000 usually when you with any business. If you reach 75,000, that you then have to start paying GST and adding GST on top. So medical expenses or medical sales, whatever, however you want to say it, from the NDIS or from aged care and that sort of thing, they don't include GST. So what that means is sometimes people get a little bit confused as to whether I have to. Maybe they think that once they get over 75,000, they don't have to register for GST. And from what I've been told by an accountant, that regardless, you do have to register for GST once you're bringing in over 75,000 a year. So make sure you contact an accountant, ask that question. Okay. Next question, number 4. Here we go. Okay, so should I register for GST before I reach the 75,000 because I can claim all GST expenses? So like I just mentioned, there is no GST within this, like if you're going to make a sale, let's say you put on a service of community access, there's no GST involved in that the government gets charged, for providing that service. So basically what that means is that you can claim, you don't have to pay GST, even though you're registered for GST. You don't have to pay GST, and any expenses, let's say you buy a car for 50,000 and 10,000 and 10% of that is GST. This is just off the top of my head. So 10% of that is 5,000. 5,000 can be claimed back because you don't have to pay GST, and you can claim your expenses still. So any expenses. So there is a possibility that it's a real bonus and a positive to actually apply for. If you're gonna be in for a lot of expenses, you can actually reduce all of those expenses by 10%. So that's going to save you thousands of dollars even over your first year of being a provider, just by registering for GST, because you can claim all of those expenses back. Now, I want you to definitely make sure you check with your accountant that this is true, because I don't know when you're looking at this video, and rules could change, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but this is what I've been told by my accountant and other experts in the industry. And the great person to contact would be Retinue. They will be able to tell you if all of that is good. Okay, so what bookkeeping software is the best for my situation? So going into, I wouldn't decide on a bookkeeping software before you have a consultation with Retinue or whoever you choose to go with. I would make sure that they are, because I've made that mistake. I chose QuickBooks with one of my other businesses that I used to own. I chose QuickBooks. So when I chose QuickBooks, basically, it was really hard for me to find an accountant that could give me some advice on how to use QuickBooks and what I was doing wrong and that sort of thing within the bookkeeping software. So it is an advantage, I think, if you make sure that the accountants that you're dealing with are fluent in whatever the software is that you're using, so that you can send them an email and say, hey, look, I'm really stuck on this. What do I need to do? And I've since been able to do that, and it's quite easy to just message and ask for some advice if I can't figure out or where this goes, or how to transfer it to what category and that sort of thing. So definitely ask them what the best software is for your situation, and if you're starting off as an independent provider, whatever it is, maybe something simple like Henry. You got Henry, you got Xero, you got QuickBooks, you got what's the other one? Anyway, there's heaps of them. So anyway, moving on to the next question. Let's fly through these. If I hire a provider on a contract basis, do I need to pay super or workers' compensation? So I have dealt with some providers that are actually hiring their support workers on a ABN or a contract. Now, people do this to cut down on their expenses. Now, first of all, you can't pay less than the minimum wage. And second of all, often, even though they're on a contract, you still have to pay super and workers' compensation. It really depends on your individual situation. So that's something you need to check and clear with your accountant to make sure that you're doing the right thing, because you would hate to be what my accountant told me was known as a sham contractor. Okay, so ask them about a sham contractor. Ask them if you are going to pay by ABN. You know, most of the time people pay by casual, permanent, or full-time, that sort of basis. But there are a number of providers that are hiring on ABNs and contracts, you know. Moving on to the next question. Okay, question 7. What is the instant asset write-off threshold, and how can I use it? So when COVID happened, there was instant asset write-off threshold, and basically we bought a car for $50,000, and we were able to reduce that because of the GST. So basically we got $5,000 off that, and then because it was an instant asset write-off as a business car, basically you know, doing the maths off the top of your head, you're kind of able to reduce that and take around about a third of that price off your taxes that you have to pay for that year. So I want you to ask, if you're thinking about going out and buying a car for work or some kind of asset, ask them about the instant asset write-off. I have heard that it's dropped to $20,000, and you know, before $50,000 that was fine during COVID. That is the government's way to release a bit of pain. But yeah, just ask about instant assets write-off, and if that's something that you can, you know, maybe it's just a computer. Maybe it's a computer that you really need. It's $2,000. Is that an instant asset write-off, or does it have to depreciate over the years and what's not? So ask about instant assets write-off. I wish I knew that going into my my first consultation when I was setting up my NDIS provider business. So number 8. What can I claim as a tax deduction when I'm transporting participants? So Besim and his team spoke to me. They recently just held a webinar about this subject, about providers using their own vehicle for transportation. So they really know what they're talking about with this. So I won't go too in depth with it, but you know, ask them what deductions you can you claim tires, can you claim petrol, can you claim all these sorts of things, you know, is there fringe benefits, all that sort of thing. So ask them for a bit more information around the deductions that you're able to do as an NDIS provider, and specifically if you're transporting participants, ask them about that. Last question, two more questions. So how do I pay myself a wage? I mean, pretty important really. How do you pay yourself a wage? So if you're an ABN, you know, it's not really a wage. You're kind of just taking the money in, and you know, it's all your money. You just have to pay for your expenses and that sort of thing. So if you're just setting up a business in an ABN, it's different to when you're setting up a company and a trust and whatever it is. So ask them about how you're going to pay yourself a wage, and because if you can't pay yourself a wage, you know, that's one of the first things you really need to be able to do. You have to be able to live and be comfortable and pay yourself a wage before you go bringing on other people and start paying them a wage. Okay, so this is your journey as an entrepreneur, so it's important that you get paid for the hours that you're doing. Okay, so what level of support do they provide? So anytime you go in with an accountant, it's really important to ask, you know, what are the extra little fees? You know, what level of supports? I once had an accountant. Every time I emailed me, they charged me $15. So every time I emailed them, asked them for some advice, they would charge me $15 because they would include that as 15 minutes of consultation every email. So definitely make sure you check. And I know that Retinue, so the company Retinue that Besim works for, I know that they are not one of those companies. So if you're interested in reaching out, they're not going to just charge you for every little bit. So they are quite, you know, they definitely believe in the theory of reciprocity, as do I. That's why I do all these videos and try and help you guys. And that's been our last question, and I hope that's provided some value to you. Once again, if you want to take advantage of that free offer, free consultation and 10% off, definitely let Besim know about Chadwick Digital and an NDIS discount. If you need any help with your web design, you want any more free videos, check out my website, check out the YouTube, Facebook. You can also find I have a mastermind group on Facebook, NDIS service provider masterminds, where there's over 2,000 providers on there talking about marketing and giving advice with that sort of stuff as well. So definitely reach out. If you want this checklist, leave a comment below. I'll send it through to you. Type in Chadwick Digital. My name's Greg Chadwick. Type that in. I can send this checklist through to you so you can take this into your interview or your appointment, and maybe you can add a few more things on here. So if you want this checklist, I'll send that through to you as well. And yeah, I hope that's been helpful, and I appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping the NDIS and the people we support thrive. So thanks once again. I'll see you in the next video.